Thank you, Unity Singers. That was such a joy, and I needed to hear that. Will you join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, thank you for being the light in our darkness, in those moments that appear dark. And thank you for allowing us to be lights in the darknesses of others. And I thank you for allowing me to deliver a message, and that may my words be your words, and my actions be your actions, my feelings be your feelings, that we express this from your deepest level. Amen. So a priest and a pastor stood near a sharp curve on a busy road holding signs. One of the signs said, "The end is near." Read the priest's sign, and the pastor's warned, "Turn around before it's too late." And then as he passed by, a jerk in a sports car shouted out, "Lunatics! Idiots!" And he shook his head and just honked his horn, and he raced on. And then there was a screeching of tires and a big splash. And the priest turned to the pastor and said, "Maybe we should just change our signs to say the bridge is out." This week we're talking about fellowship, which is the third segment of the Shipbuilding series that I introduced a while back. And fellowship, the reason why is I think, and I look at fellowship as being the wind in our sails and the gas in the motor. It keeps us floating. And why is that? It's because we are a social species, and we need each other to thrive. And that's why fellowship is very important. You know, we come together like we are right now in this time of worship, of sharing spirit, and fellowship is that extension beyond. And in this need for each other to thrive, we all come with a different set of attributes and gifts and challenges. Some of us are very calm and peaceful beings. And if I'm looking at you, that doesn't mean that you're calm and peaceful necessary. Because the next thing I'm going to say is some of us are upset or get upsettable very easily. And so if I look at you, that doesn't mean that you get upsettable easily. And some of us are usually laid back and accepting, and some of us are very demanding and critical and always vocal with an opinion. Most of us are usually expressing love, and we're very kind. And some of us are always right. And much of this has to do with our personality. And personality is something that we bring into fellowship. And the personality is the sum total of characteristics of man. Now, I'm reading this from, I think, Revealing Word. And it has personalized as distinct of himself. Personality is independent of others, and it's independent of divine principle. Personality is the unreal. It's the mortal. It's the part of us that is governed by the selfish motives of the natural man. And personality is a veil or mask worn by man that conceals the real spiritual I am. And a lot of times most people live in their personalities because they forget that they're divine beings, that they're spiritual beings in this human form. And they go about their day and they're really stuck in their personalities. And personalities aren't all bad. It's just that that's a part of what we deal with. And here at the church, we bring our divine self, the co-creation of Source that is with us, and then we also bring our personalities. So we bring the divine Robert, and I bring the personality Robert. And that can be fun, and it can be welcoming, and constructive, and joyful. And it also can be injured, or diseased, or challenged. And a lot of times we bring some of both with us. Now, fellowship implies that people are of one mind or have a community of interest. And fellowship with God brings a realization that the universal life, energy, and power are accessible to all of us. Fellowship, we come together in fellowship to realize universal life. And fellowship is a key ingredient in our ministry and in our church, and in every ministry and church. Now, we happen to identify a time of fellowship, and that's usually after church. And we used to do fellowship really grandly. Every week we would have a potluck luncheon, or we would have different groups supply that luncheon for us. And as we have aged, and as we aren't about to set up a hall each week and tear down a hall each week, we bring fellowship a little bit more realistically, of our time of fellowship of once a month of a potluck, and afterwards in our narthex. But fellowship is so much more than that, and I know you know that. Fellowship is that time aside and away from worship where we gather and we tell our stories. We get to share our challenges and the successes of our lives, and it's the opportunity for our church family to affirm your journey and to assist in raising your consciousness by reminding you of your oneness with God. It's a time to solve problems. I have been in many a time of fellowship where a reported challenge came up and it was solved. A prayer was answered almost immediately because of sharing it in a time of fellowship. Fellowship is the time when we put our input on the collective narrative and how our history has impacted us. It's about how we dream for our future. And fellowship is the time where we form our friendships. We recognize each other as our church family, as our extended family. And we share in caring and listening and laughter and healing. And fellowship reminds us that we're not alone, that we're on this journey together, and we're moving toward unity, not from it. And that is fellowship in its most perfect form. And then comes our personalities. And then some of our personalities, we've been exposed to truth principles, but we're not quite maybe always living our truth principles. And we're not clear how to actively live them out. And our personalities come forward. And while we have in our personalities the ability to listen and discern and care and be empathetic and praise, sometimes the criticisms come out. Sometimes the destructive qualities, if it is qualities, destructive aspects of our personality comes out. And they're critical and they're punitive. And they relive our terrible twos. That service was just too long. Message was too boring. Messenger is too soft. The board is too something. There's too many activities and they cost too much money. She is too pushy. He is too aloof. Too. And we've all been with someone who's going through their terrible twos. And then we have an opportunity to participate or not. We could add our 2 cents and continue with the degenerative thoughts. Or we could counter them with, I don't experience it that way. Or have you ever thought about this? Now, that's happened to me several times in this church, and I'm always grateful for it when I'm expressing something that might be challenging or confusing or not quite understanding it. I'm on the precipice of change. And more than likely, Gail Culbertson will say something to me, and it just completely changes the form for me. It's like, oh, well, thank you. I hadn't thought of it that way before. Or, if it's too much 2 cents, we can walk away. Now, as a minister, I have listened to others' criticisms about other people, and I don't often have the same reaction as you do. I know that when someone's personality trait is annoying me, that it is my charge, it is my challenge, that they are there to teach me something. And so it is an opportunity. However uncomfortable, however unpleasant it may be, it's an opportunity. But if it gets to be too much, and I've done this, I've walked away. I don't have to participate. I don't have to participate in that conversation, in that attitude. We have the right to walk away from destructive thoughts. Now, we can actually change our thoughts, but we actually can remove our presence and go somewhere else. Now, I have been in the situation where someone has followed me all around, continuing with that same dialogue, and then I'm reminded, they're here to teach me something. There's something about this. I better be listening, not to what they're saying, but how I'm responding to it. Sometimes I just have to say, I just remembered I'm supposed to be somewhere right now. And that usually is somewhere else. So we're here by divine appointment to experience and express the oneness of God. And when we do this, we're looking at each other as spiritual beings in a human form. And we are called to love the spiritual being, to affirm each other's wholeness. This is all spiritual beings, not just the ones that we identify with or feel comfortable with. In 1 John 4:16-21, so we have known and believe the love that God has for us. God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. Love has been perfected among us in this way, that we have boldness on the day of judgment, because as He is, so we are in the world. And this part I really love. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, for fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not reached perfection in love. We love because He first loved us, because God first loved us. Those who say, I love God, and hate their brothers and sisters are liars. For those who do not love a sister or brother whom they have seen and been in contact with cannot love God, who they cannot see. The commandment we have from Him is this: those who love God must love their brothers and sisters also. So God is love, and we're created in this image, and we are to turn away from fear. The challenge is that everyone is our brother and sister, but we live in a culture that creates separation. And there's all kinds of separation. We all know about them. Race, religion, politics, economic, gender. There's all kinds of difference and separation. And sometimes it's very easy to participate, in an us versus them world. And sometimes our language, will go there. How often have you referred to someone that is different as they or them, almost thinking that they're very different from me? The homeless are they. People from another religion are them. People with different gender identities, they're what? Yet we're challenged in 1 John to see each soul here on the planet as my sister and my brother. We're challenged to look beyond humanness, beyond personality, to see the evolving soul that they are. Now, we don't have to understand them. It's just merely opening our hearts and our minds to see them as spirit in action. And I have to tell you, some people that we look at have some real wackadoodle ideas. You know, they have different methods and unfamiliar customs, and some of them have even been taught to hate you. But our role in this lifetime is to open ourselves up to experiencing love towards them. I'm reminded personally in this about the fight, I want to say, because it felt like a fight at the time. But as we strove for marriage equality, and as a gay man, my family was not acknowledged or identified as having equal rights to other people. And I developed a really big chip on my shoulder about that. I was really angry about it. I was angry at the dialogue because there were people that came forward and said, I didn't deserve that it wasn't right, it wasn't biblical, it was sinful. And in going through that very difficult time, I almost didn't know how to act. I stopped listening to the radio. This was in Hawaii, and there was all kinds of advertisements for and against. But the argument became too big because it was personal. It was my family. And as I prayed about it one day, it dawned on me that not everybody is gifted with the gift of being gay. I get to have that experience, but not everybody gets to have that experience. I don't get to have the gift of being born of another racial profile. I'm Caucasian. I won't know the gift of coming from African or Asian descent. I won't know the gift of having brown eyes or being 7 feet tall. The traits I was born with are these traits. And as I prayed about that, I thought, how could they possibly know? How could they possibly know what it's like to walk in my footsteps? Well, of course they don't understand. And I started developing compassion. They are not blessed with that gift. Jesus called us to love one another, and through our love for each other, miracles happened. And that was a miracle in my life, because I was really down about life because of it. And prayers are answered. We find ourselves in the flow of life. And it happens in this church right now. Peter Cronin, one of our congregants, one of our members, who's going to come up and speak to you in just a moment. I don't know if he knows that or not. Might be a surprise for him. Peter experienced a profound healing in his life. Now, I believe all healing is based on love. And it's from the genius of the advanced technology, the gift of God, that expression of love and through technology, and a community that gathered around to pray for him, that miracles happen. And I'm going to bring Peter down here to share a few words about his journey. Oh, the sound man brought his own microphone.
This is a picture of me a year ago. What is it? It's a PET scan. It's a PET scan that the doctors order to see if there's any cancer in your body. All the white spots are Merkel cell cancer. Merkel cell is it's a skin disease, just like melanoma, basal cell. Mine went all over my system, my liver, my bones, my pancreas, multiple lymph nodes. I had 40 spots throughout my body. Fortunately, with all your help, my wife's help especially, we were able to beat this. This was just a few weeks ago. It's gone, all the spots. The fellowship of this church helped me so much. The prayer groups at our house, my wife, especially for doing all the hard work, getting the right doctors to treat me, prayer groups, praying all the time. This is a testament to fellowship at this church. So I just want to say thank you to everybody here. I'm going back to work. They're calling it cured. And that's amazing for being stage 4 a year ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I love stories like this. I love when our love works. And our love does work. And it's always a choice. Peter chose to heal. He chose to open himself up to treatment and to go on and to heal. And we continue to love him and support him and to love and support Kathy through this journey. It doesn't stop. Just because the cancer cleared up, we continue to tell our stories and to share in the love. So let us continue to see the Christ in each other, to affirm even when someone appears to be different from us. There, I behold the Christ in you. Will you join me in prayer? We thank you, loving God, for your wonderful, miraculous healing powers in each and every one of us. We thank you for the power of love that we share, the love that you have given us, this divine love, that it radiates through our bodies, that it radiates through our minds, and it affects every person, every being we encounter. We thank you for the changes in our lives. Amen.